Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Nearly 200 wounded. Flights are grounded right now in Ben Gurion Airport, and missiles landing in the shadow of a nuclear facility at Dimona. Iran just sent an Israel a message, and as a matter of fact, not just Israel, but the world, and the message that the world and Israel cannot ignore any longer. In this live stream, I'm going to be addressing to you, providing you also my own analysis about the two main events for the Dimona, which I promised you I will follow up on it. This is what I'm going to be addressing, along with some translation of some clips from overseas and some images that I got a hold of, specifically one that I am going to keep for you towards the end. So make sure, please, stay with me till the end, because there's only one picture, but there is more to it than just picture. And I'm going to do a live stream for you about this particular picture once I confirm some information. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at Iran now, continuing with its missile campaign against Israel with these two recent devastating strikes that bypassed, here is the key, bypassed the David's Sling defense system. You know, Israel has like about 4 layers: the Iron Dome, David Slings, the Arrow 3, Arrow 2, and so forth. David Slings is considered one of sort of the advanced ones that Israel have been promoting. Not anymore. Iran's missile bypassed all that. And here in the cities of Dimona and Arad. Now, when I say Dimona, I'm not referring to the nuclear facility. No. We're referring to the city of Dimona. Dimona nuclear facility is about 25 kilometers from that, and I'll get into that. But I also hit the city of Arad. Arad is closer by, and that is injuring approximately 200, which, by the way, Western media and some sources inside Israel sort of reduced those numbers by order of the government. And this strike, especially in Dimona, which I will address in a second here through the clip, it was just the people that were injured were just about a few miles from Israel's secretive nuclear research center. And simultaneously, this is what the key of why Iran is playing a strategic approach to this. Simultaneously, Iran's Khorramshahr-4, I'm going to show you this picture right here. Khorramshahr-4 targeted Ben Gurion Airport, forcing authorities in Israel to slash, they had to slash flights to only a handful of destinations and cap the departure, as a matter of fact, and I confirmed it, that some planes will only hold about 50 passengers, no more. As a matter of fact, 50 passengers per flight. So what is the point of all this? The dual strikes on the nuclear adjacent city, Dimona that is, and the Israelis' main air gateway, which is the airport of Ben Gurion, sends a message. And it's also a signal that this is now, we are entering the new phase of the conflict. One where no target, civilian or strategic, appears to be off limit to Iran's missiles. That is the important thing. So what I'm going to be doing in this live stream here, I'm going to be providing you short clips. There was one that is a little bit longer, and I'll do the translation for you. But the clips I want you to see with your own eyes. Towards the end of this live stream, make sure, please, to stay with me here, because the two ones that the two clips, the first shows you what's going on inside Ben Gurion Airport. The other one about the devastation that's taking place in Dimona. And the third one is the surprise that I'm going to keep for you. So let me share the screen with you right here. And let's take a listen here. What you're going to be looking at. You're going to be looking at, because it's written in Arabic, the scenes documenting the scale of destruction in Dimona following a missile attack that struck several buildings and left dozens injured. Let's take a listen here. And it's, by the way, it's in Hebrew language. And I give credit to Al Jazeera for this. And it says right there at the top left, مشاهد توثق حجم الدمار في Dimona, scenes that documents the large scale of destruction in Dimona.
אני הייתי יחד איתה במקלט הציבורי, חלקם נפצעו תוך כדי הליכה בדרך בבעלה. הילד שנפצע לא הספיק להגיע לזה, אז בוא נשלח לו פה החלמה מהירה. אני לא מבסוט, אני מבסוט, מברק סניש. ברק, בוא נהיה קצת יותר רציני, באמת, בוא נהיה קצת יותר... יש שני מקלטים ציבוריים פה בזירה הזאת, ויש פה סיירני בעדר חס שנביא לו בסיס עד צפיות, הורדנו שני מקלטים קל, וברוך השם כמעט אתמול בלילה שחררנו כמעט את כולם. בתים הרס לחלוטין. מעבר לזה, מאחוריי, אתה רואה את המבנה הגדול שם, שיש פה הרס אדיר. אני רוצה לנצל, אם שומעים אותנו, מי שלא הגיע למסר שלנו, שהגיעו לבית הספר.
That's the end of that short clip. And the next one I'm going to be playing for you shortly here is that they shows really the terrifying leaks that's coming out now as far as the two missiles that rocked Dimona. Of course, the first clip you saw, that wasn't sanctioned by the government, by the way. Those are from the local people, the Israelis themselves. I know this for a fact. Many Israelis are the one releasing some clips for the world to see, but also because of the massive devastation. They are not in agreement with what Netanyahu is doing. And that is where the media comes in and sort of try to filter only to show you what they want to show you, but not the full picture, and let you reach your own conclusions with that. So let's do the next, and that is, again, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. If the truth matters to you, hit like, subscribe, and tap that bell. No spin, no agenda, just the stories they don't want you to know. So don't watch from the sideline. Be part of the movement. Your support keeps the truth alive. Thank you very much. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here, is provide you the information that is the media is limiting you or preventing you from knowing. Let's get into our next clip. I'm gonna do the translation for you in sections like we've been doing, and I hope you guys enjoy those kind of clips. And I give credit to where those. This one here, it's coming from a platform. It's called from in Arabic. It says min salbil waqi', which means in the translation is from the heart of the reality. That is where this particular clip is coming from. So let's take a listen, and we're gonna start it right here.
الهاوية نراقب التاريخ وهو يكتب بالدم والنار أمام أعيننا. هذا ليس مجرد بث عادي، بل هو جرس إنذار ندقه في لحظة فاصلة من تاريخ المنطقة والعالم.
He's starting with, today we stand on the precipice of an abyss, watching history being written in blood and fire right before our eyes. This is no mere ordinary broadcast. Rather, it is an alarm bell. We are sounding at a pivotal moments in the history of both the region and the world.
نحن اليوم في اليوم 23 من هذه الحرب الطاحنة، يوم يمكن أن نطلق عليه بامتياز يوم خيارة شمشون. نعم، خيار هدم المعبد على رؤوس الجميع، الخيار الذي لا يلجأ إليه إلا يائس ومحبط ومن أسقط في يده. ابقوا.
Today, the third day of this grinding war is a day we can aptly describe as the day of Samson's choice. Yes, the choice to bring the temple crashing down upon everyone's head, a choice to which one resorts only when utterly desperate, disillusioned, and left with absolutely no other choice.
معي إلى الثواني الأخيرة، لأن ما سأكشفه لكم اليوم من معلومات مسربة وحقائق مخفية سيصدمكم وسيجعلكم تدركون حجم الزلزال الذي يضرب تحت أقدامنا في هذه الساعات الحاسمة.
Stay with me until the very last second for this information I am about to reveal to you today. Leaked intelligence and hidden truth will shock you and make you realize the magnitude of the seismic upheaval rumbling beneath our feet during these critical hours.
دعونا نبدأ من الزلزال الذي يهز الكيان الإسرائيلي في هذه اللحظات، الحدث الذي يخفيه الإعلام العالمي ويحاول التعتيم عليه بشراسة. ما حدث ليلة أمس كان شيئا غير متصور، ولا يمكن للعقل الإسرائيلي أو الأمريكي أن يتوقعه على الإطلاق. صاروخان فقط، أكرر، صاروخان 2 فقط، فرط صوتية وبرؤوس شطارية عنقودية قلب موازين الرعب. الصاروخ.
Let us begin with the earthquake currently shaking the Israeli entity, an event that the global media is concealing, attempting to aggressively cover it up. What transpired last night, which is, by the way, the night before, because remember, it's 48 hours since this happened. Last night was something unimaginable, something that neither the Israeli nor the American mind could have ever anticipated. Just 2 missiles, I repeat, only 2 hypersonic missiles equipped with cluster warheads have completely upended the balance of terror.
الأول ضرب أين؟ ضرب ديمونا، نعم ديمونا التي تحتضن المفاعل النووي الإسرائيلي، المدينة التي من المفترض نظريا وعسكريا أن تكون الأكثر تحصينا وأمانا وحماية على وجه الأرض.
The first missile struck where exactly? Dimona. Yes, Dimona, home to Israel's nuclear reactor, the city that is theoretically and militarily supposed to be the most fortified, secured, and protected place on earth.
والصاروخ الثاني ضرب مدينة عراد المجاورة لها في النقب الفلسطيني المحتل. دمار هائل لا يوصف بكلمات. حصيلة هذا القصف المدمر الذي يحاولون إخفاءه هي 49 إصابة في ديمونة و118 إصابة في عراد.
The second missile struck the neighboring city of Arad, located in the occupied Palestinian Negev. The resulting destruction is massive, indescribable in words. The toll from these devastating bombardments, which they are desperately trying to conceal, stands at 49 casualties in Dimona and 118 in Arad.
المستشفيات غصت بالجرحى، وهناك قتلى ومصابون ما زالوا عالقين تحت الأنقاض وفي الأنفاق. ما فعلوه من حرب إبادة في غزة يرتد عليهم اليوم كابوسا حقيقيا في عقر دارهم.
Hospitals are overflowing with the wounded, while fatalities and injured victims remain trapped beneath the rubble and within the tunnels. The war of extermination, the waste in Gaza, is now rebounding upon them today, manifesting as a living nightmare right in their own backyard.
لكن الصدمة الحقيقية ليست فقط في الإصابات، الصدمة في الخديعة الكبرى. الإيرانيون في قمة الدهاء العسكري استخدموا صواريخ قديمة في البداية، فأعطوا انطباعا مضللا للإسرائيليين بأن هذه هي أقصى قدراتهم، وفجأة أخرجوا الصواريخ الحديثة المتطورة الانشطارية التي يزن رأسها المتفجر أكثر من طن لتمسح عمارات كاملة من الوجود.
Yet, the true shock lies not merely in the casualties. The real shock lies in the great deception. The Iranians, it was the pinnacle of military cunning. Initially, they employed obsolete missiles, meaning the Iranian in this case. They employed obsolete missiles, thereby creating a misleading impression among the Israelis that these represented the full extent of their capabilities. Then suddenly they unleashed modern, sophisticated, and even fission-type missiles, each carrying a warhead weighing over a ton, capable of wiping entire buildings out of existence.
هل تتخيلون حالة الهلع؟ المدارس أغلقت، الرعب يسود، والأسوأ من ذلك كله للإدارة الأمريكية والإسرائيلية هو تمكن الإيرانيين من إسقاط طائرة شبح متطورة جدا، طائرة لا ترصدها الرادارات، كان يعتقد أنها معصومة من السقوط، سقطت وتمرغت في التراب. هذه الطائرة تعتبر الأحدث والأكثر تقدماً في الترسانة العسكرية للإمبراطورية الأمريكية وربيبتها إسرائيل. هذا الحدث وحده يخبرنا أن هذه الترسانة الإيرانية تخفي ما هو أعظم وأخطر. أين هو؟
Can you imagine the ensuing panic? Schools were shut down, terror reigned supreme, and worst of all, for both the American and the Israeli administrations, was this: the Iranian succeeded in shooting down a highly sophisticated stealth aircraft, a plane undetectable by radar that was once believed to be invulnerable, yet it crashed and lay humble in the dust. This aircraft is considered the newest and most advanced assets in the military arsenal of the American empire and its protege, Israel. This event alone tells us that the Iranian arsenal conceals capabilities far greater and more dangerous still.
هو بنيامين نتنياهو الذي كان يهدد بتغيير شكل الشرق الأوسط وإقامة إسرائيل الكبرى. أين هو الآن؟ إنه يقبع في غرفته المحصنة في قبو يمتد ل8 أدوار تحت الأرض. من هناك، من قلب الظلام والخوف، يمسك سماعة الهاتف ويستجدي القادة الأوروبيين.
Where is Benjamin Netanyahu, the man who once threatened to reshape the Middle East and establish a greater Israel? Where is he now? He sits holed up in his fortified room, deep within a bunker extending 8 stories underground. From there, from the very heart of darkness and fear, he clutches his telephone receiver and implores European leaders.
يتوسل للبريطانيين، للفرنسيين، للإيطاليين، يصرخ بهم: دخيل الله، انضموا لأمريكا في هذه الحرب، نحن نواجه تصفية وجودية حقيقية. وماذا كان الرد؟ لا أحد يعيره انتباها، لا أحد يرد عليه. أوروبا بأكملها أدارت ظهرها له ولحليفه في واشنطن. ترامب نفسه الذي ورط أمريكا في هذا المستنقع يعاني الآن عزلة غير مسبوقة ويقف وحيدا في الساحة، يندب حظه ويلطم على وجهه. ترامب المتغطرس.
He begs the British, the French, the Italians. He cries out to them, for God's sake, join America in this war. We are facing a genuine existential threat. And what was the response? No one pays him any heed. No one answers his calls. The entirety of Europe has turned its back on him and on his ally in Washington. Trump himself, the very man who dragged America into this quagmire, now suffers from unprecedented isolation, standing utterly alone in the arena, lamenting his fate and beating his chest in despair.
تفاجأ وتلقى صفعة تاريخية عندما لم تلبي أي دولة أوروبية نداءه للمشاركة في ضرب إيران. قال لهم: لقد ساعدتكم في أوكرانيا ومولت حربكم، فلماذا تتركونني الآن؟ لم يرسلوا له ولا حتى زورقا صغيرا واحدا إلى مضيق هرمز.
The arrogant Trump was caught off guard, dealt a historic slap in the face when not a single European nation answered his call to participate in striking Iran. He pleaded with them, I helped you in Ukraine. I funded your war. Why then are you abandoning me now? Yet they sent him nothing, not even a single small patrol boat to the Strait of Hormuz.
الإعلام الغربي نفسه بدأ ينقلب، يتهم ترامب بأنه لا يخوض حربا من أجل أمريكا أو حلف الناتو، بل يخوض حربا بالوكالة من أجل إسرائيل فقط. لا أحد في أوروبا مستعد للتضحية بأبنائه في محرقة إيرانية لا ناقة لهم فيها ولا جمل. دعونا نعود.
Even the Western media itself has begun to turn against him, accusing Trump of waging a war not for the sake of America or NATO, but rather a proxy war waged solely on behalf of Israel. No one in Europe is willing to sacrifice their sons in an Iranian inferno, a conflict in which they have absolutely no stake.
قليلا إلى الوراء لنفهم كيف وصلنا إلى هنا. هل تعلمون أن المفاوضات بين أمريكا وإيران كانت تسير بشكل إيجابي في النمسا وسلطنة عمان؟ كان هناك تقدم كبير واتفاق على استئناف اللقاءات يوم الأحد، لكن ماذا حدث؟
Let us go back for a moment to understand how we arrived at this point. Did you know that negotiations between the United States and Iran were proceeding positively back then in Austria and the Sultanate of Oman? Significant progress has been made, and an agreement was reached to resume talks on Sunday. But what happened?
نتنياهو قرر تخريب كل شيء وأوعز لترامب بضرب إيران وإشعال فتيل الحرب يوم الأحد ذاته، مجهضا أي فرصة للسلام. اللوبي الإسرائيلي جر واشنطن إلى الفخ، لكن السحر انقلب على الساحر.
Netanyahu decided to sabotage everything. He instructed Trump to strike Iran and ignite the fuse of war on that very Sunday, thereby crushing any chance for peace. The Israeli lobby lured Washington into a trap, yet the magic turned against the sorcerer.
الخطة الإسرائيلية كانت مبنية على وهم كبير رسمه رئيس الموساد ديفيد برنيع، الذي قدم خطة طموحة في يناير الماضي لنتنياهو وللإدارة الأمريكية. مفادها أن الموساد قادر خلال أيام قليلة من اندلاع الحرب على إخراج الملايين من الإيرانيين إلى الشوارع لإسقاط النظام من الداخل. الإدارة الأمريكية تحمست رغم أن شعبة الاستخبارات العسكرية الإسرائيلية أمان حذرت من أن هذه الخطة فاشلة ومستحيلة.
The Israeli plan was built upon a grand illusion, one conjured by Mossad chief David Barnea, who had presented an ambitious strategy. Last January, a message was conveyed to Netanyahu and the US administration, asserting that within just a few days of the outbreak of war, the Mossad will be capable of mobilizing millions of Iranians to take to the streets to topple the regime from within. The US administration embraced this idea, even though the Israeli Military Intelligence Directorate, Amman, had warned that the plan was both unfeasible and doomed to failure. I'm going to stop right here because what's left is just some interviews. I listened to them. Those are interviewing some individual, but I want you just to get the gist of what is going on. And by the way, I checked in other sources in foreign languages. You know, I speak foreign languages, as mainly the Arabic and French, and confirmed the story, especially about the Dimona. One of them, it was in Arabic, and I kind of read it and reread it and rechecked it. And it says, here is what it says, basically, gist of it is that in the usually tranquil Negev desert, the silence of the night was shattered by violent explosions in Dimona, a city near the heart of Israel's only nuclear arsenal, and later into the street of Arad, east of the Beersheba. This marked a new Iranian escalation, a response to the Israeli-American strike on Natanz, home to an Iranian nuclear facility. In Dimona, an Iranian missile sort of hit or evaded the Iron Dome defensive systems, landing approximately 20 kilometers from a nuclear research center. In Arad, Iranian shells struck, destroying more than 8 residential building. So what I need you to understand, in this case, even Russia now is warning the US not to strike the Natanz nuclear facility in Iran. Why? Because Russia has nuclear scientists there. But now this all it's done for now. This notion that the Dimona is well protected. No, even if I go with the argument that Iran might not even need now a bomb, should we say, just hypothetically, it has the capability to destroy Dimona nuclear facilities. Of course, Iran might not do that, or they know what the consequences of radiations and so forth. This is why Iran's missile landed about 20 kilometers far away from the reaction, from the nuclear reactor. This is no accident. That's what I need you to understand in this. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to play another clip for you. It's a short one to highlight to you once again the importance of understanding why the media is not, in the West here, not allowing the disclosure of this information and letting people decide for themselves. So let me upload it here for you. Some of this might be repetitive, but just bear with me. And again, I watched those 3 or 4 times. First of all, to ensure the accuracy of the information, and second, to avoid any repetitiveness and so forth. So this way we will not spend more time on one single aspect of it. All right, let's take a listen here. And once again, I will do the translation for you.
أمام مشهد غير مسبوق، مشهد يكتب فصلا جديدا وقاسيا في تاريخ المنطقة. الساعات الماضية لم تكن مجرد ساعات عادية تمر على إسرائيل، بل كانت ساعات ثقيلة محملة بالنار والدمار.
Today, we stand before an unprecedented scene, one that writes a new and harsh chapter in the history of the region. The past few hours have not been merely ordinary hours passing over Israel. Rather, they have been heavy hours laden with fire and destruction.
ما كان بالأمس مشهدا مقتصرا على قطاع غزة بات اليوم واقعا تعيشه المدن والبلدات الإسرائيلية من أقصى شمالها مرورا بوسطها وصولا إلى أقصى جنوبها. إسرائيل اليوم وبكل وضوح تشرب من نفس الكأس.
What yesterday was a scene confined to Gaza Strip has today become a reality experienced by Israeli cities and towns from the far north through the center all the way to the far south. Israel today quite clearly is drinking from the very same cup. By the way, just to let you know, in Arabic, this terminology, يشربون من نفس الكأس, it's a very, very significant and powerful. That's usually how you convey a strong message of what goes around comes around. And that's exactly what the anchor is trying to convey here. Let's continue here.
دعونا نبدأ من الجغرافيا التي تحترق الآن. السماء دكت بصواريخ قادمة إما من إيران أو من لبنان في هجوم لم يترك منطقة آمنة. في تل أبيب، في حلون، في القدس، وحتى في مستوطنات الضفة الغربية. دوت صفارات الإنذار مرات عدة ومتتالية، تلاها سقوط شظايا الصواريخ التي أطاحت بعدد كبير من الجرحى ونشرت الذعر في كل مكان.
Let us begin with the geography. A geography that is currently ablaze. The skies have been pounded by incoming missiles launched from either Iran or Lebanon. Is in an assault that left no area safe. In Tel Aviv, in Holon, in Jerusalem, and even in the settlements of the West Bank. Air raid sirens wailed repeatedly and consecutively, followed by the impact of missiles that left a large number of people wounded and saw panic everywhere.
لكن المشهد الأقسى والصورة الأكثر قتامة جاءت من الجنوب، وتحديدا من عراد ديمونا. هذا الاسم الذي يحمل ثقلا استراتيجيا مرعبا، حيث تقع المنشأة النووية الإسرائيلية. شهدت دمارا واسعا. عشرات الإسرائيليين سقطوا هناك بين قتيل وجريح، وبعضهم في حالة خطرة جدا، متأثرين بشكل مباشر بصواريخ طهران.
Yet, the most extreme scene, the darkest image of all, emerged from the south, specifically from Arad and Dimona. Dimona, a name that carries a terrifying strategic weight, as it is the site of Israel's nuclear facility, witnessed widespread destruction. Dozens of Israelis fell there, a mix of dead and wounded, some in critical conditions, having been directly struck by Tehran's missiles.
المباني في الجنوب دمرت وسويت بالأرض تماما كما فعل بالمباني في غزة، وتحت هذا الركام ما زال هناك مفقودون عالقون يواجهون احتمالين لا ثالث لهما، إما النجاة بمعجزة وإما النهاية.
Buildings in the south were destroyed and razed to the ground, exactly as was done to buildings in Gaza. And beneath this rubble, there remain missing people, trapped, facing two possibilities with no third option: a miraculous survival or the end.
وفي أقصى الشمال، حيث مستوطنة مسكاف عام، تتكرر نفس الصورة المدمرة. هذه الصورة مشاهدين هي صدمة للوعي الإسرائيلي، فهي صورة غير اعتيادية إطلاقا في الداخل الإسرائيلي، رغم أنها لطالما كانت الصورة المعتادة واليومية في لبنان وغزة. هذه القدرات الصاروخية الهائلة والمكثفة التي توجت هذه الساعات عكست واقعا صادما ومخالفا تماما لكل ما قيل وسوق له مرارا وتكرارا. لقد استمعنا
In the far north, at the settlements of Misgav Am, the same destructive scenes is unfolding once again. This image, this scene, their viewers comes as a shock to the Israeli consciousness. It is a sight entirely unaccustomed to the Israeli interior, even though it has long been a routine, daily reality in Lebanon and Gaza, a reality brought about by these massive, intensive missile capabilities that have defined these past few hours. It revealed a shocking reality, one that stands in complete contradictions to everything that has been repeatedly stated and promoted.
طويلا للتصريحات الإسرائيلية والأمريكية التي كانت تبشر بقرب نفاذ مخزون صواريخ إيران، لكن الميدان اليوم يقول العكس تماما. هذا الزلزال الأمني استوجب خروجا عاجلا لرئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنيامين نتنياهو، الذي حاول احتواء الموقف بادعاءات ووعود كبيرة. نتنياهو صرح بأن الرد سيكون بعيد المدى وأنه سيؤدي.
For a long time, we have listened to Israeli and American statements heralding the imminent depletion of Iran's missile stockpile. Yet, the reality on the ground today tells a completely different story. This security shock necessitated an urgent public appearance by the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who attempted to contain the situation through sweeping claims and grand promises. Netanyahu declared that the response will be far-reaching.
إلى انهيار نظام طهران وشل كافة قدراته. لقد حدد نتنياهو هدفين واضحين وضخمين. الهدف الأول هو التدمير الكامل للبرنامج النووي والبرنامج الصاروخي الإيراني، وتدمير قدرتهم على إنتاج المكونات اللازمة لكلا البرنامجين، قائلا إن إسرائيل في طريقها لتحقيق ذلك.
He asserted that this will lead to the collapse of the Tehran regime and the complete paralysis of all its capabilities. Netanyahu outlined two clear and monumental objectives. The first is the total dismantling of Iran's nuclear and missile programs, including the destruction of its capacity to manufacture the component necessary for both, a goal he stated Israel is well on its way to achieve. I don't think so, mister. Prime Minister.
أما الهدف الثاني فهو تهيئة الظروف للشعب الإيراني للإطاحة بما أسماه الاستبداد. لكن وخلف هذه التصريحات الرنانة تبرز مفارقة عجيبة تكشف حجم المأزق. ففي الوقت الذي يتوعد فيه نتنياهو بتدمير إيران نجده يوجه نداءات استغاثة ويطلب المساعدة من الدول الأوروبية للانضمام إلى هذه المواجهة. إذا كانت إسرائيل قادرة على تحقيق هذا التدمير الشامل بمفردها، فلماذا تطلب النجدة من أوروبا؟ وهنا ننتقل إلى
The second objective is to create the conditions enabling the Iranian people to overthrow what he termed eternity. Yet beneath these resounding declarations lies a curious paradox that exposes the true magnitude of the predicament. Even as Netanyahu vows to destroy Iran, he simultaneously issues distress calls, pleading with European nations to join him in this confrontation. If Israel is indeed capable of single-handedly executing such comprehensive destruction, why then does it seek Europe's aid? And I'm going to stop right here, because what's left in that, and again, I watched it, it's the explanation about the intelligence within the Mossad and all that we're feeding Netanyahu different information from Amman. Amman is the military intelligence. Their assessment, as a matter of fact, I had a chance to read one of the unclassified report. It's made public, if you know where to look, that they were against all this. This is why Netanyahu was pushing the Mossad into this direction. But anyway, suffice it to say, what Benjamin Netanyahu is saying is nothing but hypes. He won't be able, as a matter of fact, one-on-one, Iran against Israel alone, Iran will wipe out Israel in no time. In no time. Because the whole survival of Israel depends on the United States. We all know it. But now it's become clear, even if the US gets involved, that will, of course, the US will give them one option, it has to do with the nuclear. But who? Do we know what Iran has? We don't. That is the key. And that's why for Netanyahu saying this kind of statements is also to push the America, because he is now nervous, Netanyahu is nervous about the statements by Donald Trump about these so-called negotiations with Iran, which, by the way, Trump is lying. There are no negotiations. There are no negotiations whatsoever. So let me move to the second part of this live stream, and we're going to talk about Ben Gurion Airport, because I have images that you need to see. And here is what the IRGC claimed. And so far now, the statements that IRGC have stated, and I'm going back to the beginning of the war, I fact-checked those statements, and so far, I found them to be accurate. This is, again, what prompted me to be doing this for our community, because I need you to know the truth. I need you to be aware of really what's coming out of the capitals, be it Tel Aviv, Washington, Brussels, Paris, and what have you. And this is, again, where the IRGC claimed the responsibility for a missile strike, specifically Khorramshahr-4 missile, which has a heavy projectile equipped with 1-ton warhead. And those were directly aimed at Ben Gurion Airport, a nearby base of the Israeli Air Force. As a matter of fact, there is one base, and I'm aware of it, is the 27th Squadron that is adjacent to that location there. So what happens with that strike? 3 private planes, and I have the images from 2 separate sources. I'll not share them with you in a second here. The 3 private jets on Ben Gurion Airport were damaged by falling debris following the interception of an Iranian ballistic missile. Now, I can see the logic of that. If there is just the debris, yes, it will damage the airplanes. Because if it was a direct hit, it will vaporize those planes, basically. And this is with one of the planes catching fire from the fragments, while the other sustained some damages. So the aircraft were empty at the time when that happened. And this is where you're going to have now why. First of all, you need to ask yourself, why is Iran doing this? Why targeting Ben Gurion? because Iran want to put some sort of a blockade on airspace. I mean, can you imagine a plane is going to be taking off out of Ben Gurion Airport? You got to be out of your mind to get on a plane right now in that airport leaving Israel. This is why you have majority of people, to my knowledge, 243,000 people, Israelis, are leaving Israel not by plane, they're going through the sea. Of course, you won't hear about this information whatsoever. But anyway, suffice it to say that the Israeli government embarked on now reducing the capacity of the plane from 150 to almost 50 passengers. That's it. And this is again where you see the importance of understanding this aspect. For the Dimona, that's you already you heard what the translation that I did for you and so forth. That's basically confirming, because I had to check from another source, and it's confirming that the 2 Iranian ballistic missiles successfully struck the cities of Dimona and Arad on Saturday. That's why I'm saying it was 2 or 3 days, 2 days before. Usually I always wait 2 days for me, just for the community to know. I have to check and double check the information. But here is what I need you to understand, the broader context. I'm not going to detail more about Dimona. You already saw the images, and we said what's need to be said about that. What I need you to understand is the broader context. And the broader context is that the conflict, which began back in February 27, 28, it was a Saturday if I recall, with a series of attacks by the United States and Israel against Iran, following the breakdown of the US-Iran talks. Well, wait a minute. This is where I feel sometimes I want to share with you the information as is, but sometimes I disagree with it, because the way it's worded, the breakdown of US-Iran talks, it was no breakdown. We struck Iran in the middle of negotiations, or Israel convinced the US to strike Iran in the middle of negotiations. So this is why sometimes the way how things are worded, they might be misleading. In any event, Iranian missiles have since struck multiple positions across Israel, with the largest death toll in a strike on March 1st that targeted residential area in Beit Shemesh. So far, the Israelis saying only 9 people died in that. I think it's more than that. And of course, by the 10th day of the war, Iranian missiles and drones had dropped more than 90%, which is that's accredited to an effective suppression effort. And that's why the US couldn't do squat about it. Israel couldn't do squat. And as of March 24th, which is yesterday, Donald Trump, the delusional president, claimed that talks with Iran have led to a major point of agreement. Stop lying, Mr. President. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing us Americans here. Even though we don't agree with this war, we have nothing against Iran. I speak for myself. I don't speak for my fellow Americans. They can speak for themselves if they wake up and see the reality. Iran didn't come and attack me here. Iran didn't come and threaten me here. So why are we engaging in a war? So, Mr. Trump, stop lying. Somebody, it's pathetic. It gets under me, under my skin, when you have people surrounding Trump and nobody could tell him the truth. What's the point of having advisors if they couldn't tell you what you need to hear? They're only telling you what you want to hear. And that's, to me, shame on those advisors as well. But again, the whole government is corrupted for that matter. It's like Lindsey Graham saying, I will die for Israel till my last day. Well, in this case, it becomes shame on voters in South Carolina for voting the guy into Congress. So you don't blame just Lindsey Graham, a pathetic members of Congress. You blame the voters who put him in the office to begin with. And same with the president here. So, and in any event, Iran denied that there's any characterizations of any form of negotiations. And this is, again, where you have these particular aspects of what's going on. So I have one more clip. Let me see the time here, because okay, we're still on time here. I have one more short clip. I'm gonna play it for you. I'll do the translation. It's very short, And again, I verify all this and I see which one will be of importance for you to see and listen and hear about. And once again, I'm going to show you the moments of when the Iranian missiles inflicted the losses. Once again, just bear with me here. Some of the stuff might be repetitive, but just bear with me here, please. All right, let's share the screen. Okay, let me see here. And I'll give credit to Television Al Arabi, the Arabic TV. That's the one I've been doing some clips for you and translating them. So let's take a listen.
كانت الساعات الماضية ثقيلة على إسرائيل من شمالها والوسط حتى الجنوب. دكت مدنها وبلداتها بصواريخ قادمة إما من إيران أو لبنان. الصورة تبدو كالتالي.
Simple here. The past few hours have weighed heavily on Israel, from its northern border and central regions all the way to south. Its cities and towns were pounded by incoming missiles originated from either Iran or Lebanon. The scene unfolded as follows.
في تل أبيب وحولون والقدس ومستوطنات الضفة الغربية ضوت صفارات الإنذار مرات عدة، وبعدها أطاحت شظايا الصواريخ بعدد من الجرحى. أما في الجنوب
In Tel Aviv, Holon, Jerusalem, and the settlements of the West Bank, air raid sirens blared on multiple occasions, followed by missile shrapnels striking and injuring a number of people.
وتحديدا في عراد وديمونة حيث المنشأة النووية كان المشهد أكثر قتامة. عشرات الإسرائيليين بعضهم في حالة خطرة سقطوا قتلى وجرحى متأثرين بصواريخ طهران. دمرت
Followed in the south, specifically in Arad and Dimona, home to the nuclear facility. The scene was even grimmer. Dozens of Israelis, some in critical conditions, were killed or wounded by the impact of Tehran's missiles.
المباني كما فعل بها في غزة وتحت ركامها. ما زال هناك مفقودون عالقون باحتمالين، إما النجاة وإما النهاية. أما في الشمال حيث مستوطنة مسقاف عام تحضر هذه الصورة. هي صورة غير اعتيادية في إسرائيل، لكنها لطالما كانت كذلك في لبنان.
Buildings were destroyed, much as they have been in Gaza, and beneath the rubble, missing persons remain trapped, facing a stark binary, survival or the end. Meanwhile, in the north, specifically in the settlement of Mizgaf Am, a particular image that took shape, a sight unusual for Israel, yet one that has long been a reality in Lebanon.
الساعات الواردة تفاصيلها والقدرات الصاروخية الهائلة التي توجتها عكست واقعا مخالفا لما أورد مرارا وتكرارا في التصريحات الإسرائيلية الأمريكية بشأن قرب نفاذ صواريخ إيران، كما استوجبت ردا إسرائيليا بشقين. أحدهما
The events of these past hours and the immense missiles capabilities that define them presented a reality starkly at odds with the narrative repeatedly advanced in Israel and American statements regarding the imminent depletion of Iran's missile stockpile. Furthermore, these events necessitated a two-pronged Israeli response.
جاء للتذكير بأن الرد وفقا لادعاء نتنياهو سيكون بعيد المدى، ينهار معه نظام طهران وتشل قدراته باختلافها.
لقد حددنا هدفين واضحين. الأول هو التدمير الكامل لبرنامجهم النووي ولبرنامجهم الصاروخي، وتدمير قدرتهم على إنتاج المكونات اللازمة لكلا البرنامجين.
The first prong served as a reminder, echoing Netanyahu's assertions that any retaliation will be far-reaching, designed to bring down the Tehran regime and cripple its various capabilities. We have set two clear objectives. The first is the complete dismantling of their nuclear and missile programs, as well as the destruction of their capacity to manufacture the components required for both.
نحن في طريقنا لتحقيق ذلك، كما وضعنا هدفا مماثلا في تهيئة الظروف للشعب الإيراني للإطاحة.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right here because it's the same statements that was from what I did in an earlier clip. So basically, he's saying we want the Iranian to rise up against the regime. None of that's gonna succeed. Now, what is gonna become now in both in Washington and Tel Aviv is gonna be just the statements to soothe the domestic audience. What do I mean by this? It's just to make it sound like we are doing something, when in reality, on the ground, it's different stories. So here is my conclusion, because I want to do conclusion for you and play the two other clips and the surprise that I promised you I will. Now, here is the geopolitical conclusion that I am getting from all this. The Iranian missile strikes on Dimona and Ben Gurion Airport represent, in my opinion, a fundamental geopolitical shift in the Middle East conflict dynamics, no matter how you look at it. And I'm going to be releasing a video on Sunday that deals with this particular aspect, because now you're going to have the Gulf states, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and rethink their really political strategies for the next 50 years. Forget about America now. So for the first time, Iran has demonstrated both the will and the capability to strike nuclear adjacent targets and civilian infrastructure deep inside Israel, bypassing the advanced systems in the process. And this, in my opinion, changes the calculus now for every regional and global power watching closely. That is the geopolitical message that I'm getting from this. Because for Israel, the strike now exposed the critical vulnerabilities in their air defense architecture, likely forcing now a complete reassessment of its multi-layer shield of accelerating calls for a decisive ground and air campaign against Iran remaining missile stockpile. If the U.S. went forward with putting troops on the ground, we're going to be seeing a lot of body bags coming back here. And for whom we doing the war? Anyway, it's not for American interest. For Iran, the strikes are a bold declaration that it can absorb U.S.-Israeli aggression and still hit back with a precision and force, strengthening hardliners domestically and signaling the regional allies like Hezbollah and Houthis that resistance remain viable. Here is where the Gulf states needs to think strategically moving forward. Iran tomorrow or in the next 50 years is still going to be there, still going to be your neighbor. It depends up to you how you want to live closer to your neighbor. Do you want to still have U.S. military presence, which will keep you as a legitimate target? Or do you want to build a good relationship with your neighbor? Of course, you might not exchange business, whatever. It won't matter. To build a good relationship and stability. The choice is going to be in theirs. And when you look at this geopolitical picture of it, not only from a regional or Iran or Israel, you look at it also from a global stage. On the global stage, the proximity of missiles to Dimona nuclear facility sends already shockwaves through the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, a corrupted entity anyway. All of a sudden, you have now the IAEA saying, oh, Iran shouldn't attack them. Where was the IAEA when the US and Israel attacked Natanz and Fordo and all that? Did they say anything? Or even for the Gulf state themselves, the so-called Muslim countries or Muslim leaders, where were they? Did they come forward with a public statement saying, we condemned what the US did by attacking nuclear facilities? None. This is where you're going to be seeing the double standard, which you shouldn't be surprised. That's the norm. And this is why you have now Russia and China, both resistance to Western-led ceasefire framework. Why? Because you can't trust the Americans, or Europe is useless anyway. That is there. And the key to this is that you might find that those two countries, Russia and China, might end up being the back door or the back channel mediators to prevent any further escalation. That's why I disagree with those who said, oh, India can play a mediator. India will be the last country on earth to even embark on something like this. It's beyond its capabilities or strategic comprehension in understanding the depth of the geopolitical tensions that this creates. So India is not suited for this. Let's just put this aside. And this, perhaps the most critical of this conclusion that I'm sharing with you here, is that the crippling of Ben Gurion Airport signals Iran's intent to isolate Israel's economically and psychologically. To me, in my opinion, this is a strategy, if sustained, could erode civilian morale and pressure the Israeli government towards negotiation far faster than any battlefield outcome. That is the way I see it playing out, looking from outside in. And with Trump claiming this nonsense stuff about early progress in US-Iran talks, I won't even, it's not even worth commenting on anymore. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to be commenting on this nonsense from Trump anyway. All right, let me share 2 clips and do the surprise for you in a second there. And thank you for staying with me all the way to the end there. I truly, truly appreciate you for that. All right, here is the first one. And this coming from a commander in the, I did the one before earlier for you. I did this one. Oh, sorry, I got to get back here. Pardon me, guys. And this has to do with, once again, to confirm the lies of the US, because this commander is contradicting what Trump is saying. And I'll do the translation for you. So we'll take a listen first, and I give credit to Al Arabiya for this one here. So let's take a listen, please.
مسؤولو النظام الإيراني وقادتنا العسكريون والعناصر المتخصصة لا ينوون إلحاق الأضرار بالشعوب ودول المنطقة بأي شكل من الأشكال. نحن نحب شعوب المنطقة وندعو لهم بالسلامة، لكن الظروف هي ظروف حرب. نستهدف قاعدة عسكرية، لكن قد تتطاير شظية مثلا. نحن نعمل بدقة. أحد الفنادق استهدفنا فيه مكان وجود الأمريكيين بدقة، وكان بإمكاننا إطلاق صاروخ سجيل أو فتاح أو غيرها على الفندق لتدميره كليا، لكننا لا نريد ذلك. فشعوب المنطقة أعزاء وشرفاء ومحترمون، إنهم إخوتنا ولا نعتدي عليهم. نحن نتصدى للأمريكيين والإسرائيليين.
Basically, what he's saying is that the Iran has no intentions of targeting the neighbors. What Iran is targeting is the American bases on their territory. We want to live in peace with our neighbors, but it becomes the responsibility of our neighbors to consider who they are allowing in their countries. Basically, that's the gist of it. I wanted to keep it short because it's getting long here, and I wanted to share this one here with you. All right, let me do this one here first. Now, the one I'm going to share with you now, it has to do with the Strait of Hormuz. Once again, from the same commander, except it's the different statements here. So I need you to understand this one here. Let's take a listen here, please.
مسؤولو النظام الإيراني وقادتنا
Oh, where is it?
مضيق هرمز لم يغلق بمعنى الإغلاق، ويمكن للدول الصديقة والشقيقة أن تعبر منه، وهم يفعلون ذلك، لكن الدول التي تعادينا وتحاربنا لن نسمح لها بعبور المضيق. وناقلات النفط تضررت. نحن لم نغلق المضيق. الأمريكيون قالوا إنهم سيأتون ببوارجهم لمرافقة الناقلات. قلنا لهم إذا كنتم لها فتفضلوا، وقلنا لهم نحن نعرف أنكم لستم قادرين على ذلك.
التلفزيون العربي.
Okay, and
مضيق هرمز لم يغلق بمعنى الإغلاق.
Sorry, guys. I give credit to Al Arabiya once again. Here is what he said, the commander. The Strait of Hormuz has not been closed in the absolute sense of the word, which is true. Strait of Hormuz is not closed completely. Strait of Hormuz is closed completely to the Americans and to the other countries that support US and Israel. That's the point. And he said, friendly and brotherly nations remain free to traverse it. And indeed, they do so. However, we will not permit nations that harbor hostility towards us or are at war with us to pass through the strait. While oil tankers have sustained damage, we have not officially closed the strait. The Americans stated that they would deploy their warship to escort the tankers. We told them, if you are up to the task, then by all means proceed. Yet we also told them, we know full well that you are incapable of doing so. It's spot on, because we haven't sent any naval assets to escort any tankers, because we know what the outcome is going to be. Next clip I'm going to be playing for you is the one from Ben Gurion. I want you just to see. I'm not going to do any translation here because it does not need one, and you will be able to just see here. It's the scene of anxiety and panic inside Ben Gurion. All right, let's take a listen here. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there because it just some other images there, and one more here. This one is about the 3 planes that were damaged, and I checked the pictures from different sources into all this. So let me share the screen because I want you to see it with your own eyes, and then we go from there. Share. Okay, what you're seeing right there, a photo from inside, okay, from inside one of the planes at Ben Gurion Airport after the occupation allowed the publication of details. An Iranian missile hit 3 planes, causing huge damage to them. Okay, and my last surprise for you, which I will do, I think I'm gonna do a live stream strictly about this because this one was written in French, and before I'll share it, it was written in French, and I immediately my brain ran to the French intelligence service. Why is this, you may ask? Knowing that, you know, we used to work with some of those. Why is this? It's because France has a major influence inside Beirut, inside Lebanon, and they don't want their influence in Lebanon to sort of evaporate or even fade or not be non-existent. And this is why I'm starting to feel, are the French, if it is turns up to be, that's why I'm going to verify and do the live stream for you, if it is the French intelligence that's releasing this as a message to highlight to the Israelis that it will be a mistake to target Lebanon because Iran has something far bigger. The bigger picture of all this is something that Iran never disclosed before or showed. That's why I'm saying Iran has more surprises. Let's take a look quickly here. There's no translation. There is nothing here. It's just the image. Oh, sorry. I have to share the picture first before I enlarge it. All right, this is, I'll let you take a look and you decide for yourself. Okay, I'm going to play it. And it says in French right there at the top, toujours Iran, always Iran. And that's it. I want you to see that with your own self. So What I'm gonna do is between the next 72 hours, I'm gonna verify some key information about this, and I will do a live stream for you on this one here. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for staying with me till the end. Truly appreciate you for that. I take this opportunity to say thank you to Ramzi Abdurrahman for your generous donations in support of my upcoming Asia trip. Ramzi Abdurrahman has been supporting the channel both ways, the trips and the channels. This donation, this generous donations was in support of my upcoming Asia trip. So to those who wants to support my upcoming Asia trip, there's the link in front of you. I will greatly appreciate it. Also, for those who's been supporting the channel and the content of it, I want to give a shout out to someone, and I'm going to just say the screen name here by Fund Jetty. That's all I have to say, because that's what it is. Thank you so much for your support for my channel, for the content that I am providing here. And I usually work tirelessly, guys, to provide you and bring you relevant information. So your support for the channel is greatly appreciated. You're not going to find certain information in the media because we all know how the media is. I decided to take this responsibility by doing this, by giving up teaching at the university. That's if you only know. I decided to do this because I want to give my full attention to doing this for you, for the community. So I will greatly appreciate if you can support the channel, if you can share this video with others, and if you can subscribe and encourage others to subscribe. I will be forever grateful to you. Once again, I will be working on some other stories for you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember, geopolitics impacts your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, bye-bye.